Howdy folks, it is another month and it's another year. In fact, Happy New Year to those of you who haven't caught up with in the year 2022 as yet. I hope you're all having a good break, able to get some rest and recuperation, enjoying the sun if you're down here in the Southern Hemisphere, beach weather and whatnot. Otherwise, staying warm and safe up north. We'll go through some stats and some thanks. I've got a new rugby jersey to give you guys a look at. A little bit of talk about the new Japanese rugby competition, which is kicking off this weekend, and a little bit about the Six Nations, which has still got a bit of a question mark about it with the kind of COVID situation still doing its thing. But yeah, I guess we'll start just with some stats and some thanks. Thanks to you guys for being here in the last month, which was December. It was a pretty busy month, although not quite as busy as November. November was obviously full of international games, so it was really kind of full on, like 8 hours of rugby a day if you wanted it. In December, it's been a wee bit quieter. There's been, the URC has been back underway, but it's been a bit disrupted. The Premiership's still been going on. Super Rugby teams are kind of getting ready with their pre-season. The Japanese League, as I will mention in a minute, is kind of coming even closer. And we're looking towards the kind of Six Nations as our next international competition. In the month of December, we did see how many subscribers was it, like 500 odd? And the most popular kind of content was anything World Player of the Year. The World Rugby announced their Team of the Year. That one was a bit of a hot topic in terms of just people debating it. It's just always the way whenever you kind of pick a team about Team of the Year, Team of the Tournament or whatever, it's just one of those ones that kind of generates a bit of debate, which is not a bad thing. So yeah, that's been pretty big. Still, 64% of people who watch the videos this month's gone. Well, not subscribed, so if you're one of those, do me a personal favor and subscribe to the channel. I don't tend to ask for that very often. I know I probably should ask people to like and subscribe, but I always forget. And yeah, here's the time when I do remember. So if you could do me that favor, it would be much appreciated. But cheers for being along. To the patrons, I'll scroll their names up here, who support the channel every month financially, be it $1 or be it a fair bit more than $1. Yeah, it all helps a lot to kind of keep the channel afloat. I've been spending a bunch of time doing the old depth chart videos, so that's kind of stuff that I wouldn't normally have the time for if I was kind of still stuck at my old day job. But yeah, so cheers to the patrons, especially to John, Michael, Ian, and now Jack. So thank you guys especially. But yeah, all these people, very kind. And if you want to join them, there'll be a link down in the description or in the comments or something about Patreon. Check it out if you want. But otherwise, do subscribe to the channel, like the videos, all that kind of stuff. Helps as well because YouTube loves engagement. Also, if you're keen to have a look around Eden Park on the other YouTube channel I've been running in my kind of spare time, where I essentially just go for a walk with my camera and film it. It's real kind of low intensity stuff on my end, but it gets me out of the house and I get to go to some interesting places like Eden Park. I took a walk around Eden Park and just kind of filmed. As I said, there's no me in the video. It's just scenery and the park. And if you haven't been there, you'll kind of get an idea for just what a suburban area it is in. Like the video literally starts with me pointing the camera at houses and then the stadium, which is vacant at the time I'm filming. And it's that way like 90+% of the year because there's very few events hosted at Eden Park. So yeah, if you want to have a look around Eden Park, I'll put a link somewhere, and yeah, you guys can go check that out. If you want to subscribe to that channel, you'd be doing me a massive favor because that channel's just about not quite 600 subscribers. If I can get it to 1,000, then I get to be all officially YouTubeized and whatnot. So yeah, that's one I'm just been doing when I've been out and about, especially with the kiddies and whatnot. My wife looks after them while I go for a walk. Lucky me. Actual rugby stuff, but again, yeah, thank you to the patrons, thank you to you guys for subscribing, liking, and just being here viewing the videos. New rugby jersey, the one I picked up, I bought this one myself. I haven't been picking up that many rugby jerseys in kind of recent times. Is this bad boy? It is the Moana Pacifica jersey for Super Rugby Pacific starting this year. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It took some tracking down this. Now, my missus works for the company that owns Rebel Sport, who's one of the main sports suppliers over here So she was able to have a quick look for me to see which stores had stock. And it was one far from where I live, but I went out to Monaco, and it's not that far really, it's just south side, I'm out west. Down to the south of Auckland, and picked up the jersey. It wasn't even on display. You walk into the store, the Moana Pacifica gear is right there in front of the door, but they only had the away jerseys and stuff on display, so we had to go ask, and the girl had to go find it. She came back with the alternate jersey. I'm like, no, not that one. She had to go back and come back with the home jersey. So yeah, it took some tracking down, but I'm pretty pleased to get that one. So they're going to be a new team based here in Auckland, so that'll likely be my second team, I guess, after the Blues in Super Rugby. I haven't got a hat yet, but I have to get that at some point. But yeah, fingers crossed they can have a good inaugural year in Super Rugby, but it's going to be hard for them for sure. Building a team from scratch is always a bit of a challenge. But yeah, it's a pretty nice jersey. I'll do a review for it on Patreon at some point. But yeah, it's pretty tidy. So there you go, Moana Pacifica. Welcome to the club. Still got to get the Fijian Drua one, but kind of not there yet. Anyway, Japan Rugby League 1. If you don't know what that means, that's the new version of the top league. They renamed it, and it's kind of I want to say a rubbish name. It's not the best name. The fact that you got Rugby League in the title is not ideal. But Japan Rugby League 1, I guess Rugby League over in Japan is not such a big thing that they wouldn't think Rugby League when you're thinking of a rugby league. But yeah, it's the rebranded professional version of the top league. I'm very not au fait with everything Japanese rugby. I follow it. I followed the Sunwolves, so I got to know some of the players. But the top league teams, I've never been that familiar with. I kind of know which teams are up there and which teams not so much. I know some of the coaches and the players and whatnot, but it's an interesting one. It's kicking off this weekend. I know here in New Zealand on Sky Sport they're showing at least some of the games. They haven't listed what the teams are that are playing, but they've at least listed, Japan League 1 blocks in their fixtures list, so that's good. So I'll be able to hopefully watch some of those games. Of course, the opening game's been cancelled with COVID cases, which is just par for the course these days. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. In New Zealand, we're very kind of pumped to see how Damien McKenzie goes for Sun Goliath. I want to say Suntory, but I don't think they're Suntory anymore. I think they are Tokyo Sun Goliath, because they are rebranding the teams to at least include the place name now. It just used to be company names. I guess that's one of the changes with the new kind of professional competition. So yeah, let me know if you guys are following it, if they're broadcasting it where you are. I'm not sure what the broadcast rights are like, but as more and more players go to play there, and Japan Rugby kind of further develops, I would imagine they'll just be generally more interested in it. I've only seen a few top league games in my time, a few of them big old hidings, but there were a couple of close ones that I saw as well. So yeah, saw a bit of Bodie there last year. So yeah, it should be a bit of a fun one. Let me know if you guys are going to watch it, if you have access to it, and what you think, who the favourites are. I think it's the Wild Knights game that got cancelled, so they're one of the favourites. I think they're going to get docked points, but that just remains to be seen how that pans out. The other one, speaking of COVID stuff, is the Six Nations. There's been a little bit of talk about potentially Wales hosting their games in England rather than in Wales, because at the moment, Wales, Ireland, France, and Scotland have all got attendance limitations with COVID stuff. So England is still allowing crowds. So Wales are apparently, I don't think it's officially, I think it's an option, but I don't think there's anything official about it yet, is looking at the potential of moving their games, just because it's such a financial drain. You lose money if you can't have those big Six Nations crowds. They went ahead with it last year and lost money as far as I'm aware. So yeah, potentially that could be on the cards. I've seen an idea floated where you do the one country host. I guess it would be England or maybe Italy, because I think Italy, if you've got COVID vaccine passes, then you can still attend games. Like the one host to host all the games. That's what we saw happen with the Rugby Championship for the latter half of it last year, where New Zealand was due to host South Africa and whatnot, but they ended up hosting, apart from the first two games, they hosted them all in Australia. So South Africa New Zealand, Argentina, and Australia themselves all played games throughout Australia in a rejig competition. So I guess that's another possibility. But there's still like a month to go before the Six Nations, so they've got time to figure it out. But yeah, what do you guys reckon? Should they be looking at getting it played where they can have full crowds, be it one country, or yeah, do you think they just kind of plow on with the crowd limitations? I'll admit, in going back to look at these depth chart videos, I've had to go back and look at footage from the 2021 Six Nations, and looking at the games where there's no crowds, it's not as easy on the eye, that's for sure. We kind of got used to it for a while. I mean, we're just happy to have rugby on, but now going back to look at it, it's not ideal. And as I said, the teams will be losing money if they host it with no crowds. But anyway, we'll kind of just have to wait and see what happens with that one. So yeah, as I said, thank you people for coming along in the month of December. I should have said the geographies for December. It was UK 1, South Africa 2, Ireland 3, because that depth chart video was actually quite popular. Australia 4 and New Zealand 5. And interestingly, the Isle of Man has the highest watch time. Only a handful of views, but those people watch for a long, long time over on the Isle of Man. So there you go. But as I said, yeah, cheers guys for coming along. Cheers to the patrons. You guys, if you want to subscribe, please do so. Check out the Walking channel if you want those videos. Check out the Patreon. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Let us know what you reckon about the Six Nations if you're going to watch the Japanese League One. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.